Back in the spring of 2022, I went on my first solo trip outside of Europe to Central America. I went for 6 weeks by myself and had the best time, and in this video I'm going to share with you the exact itinerary I took through my 6 weeks in Central America. As I did take it at a leisurely pace, I'll also show you a possible 4-week itinerary doing pretty much exactly the same stuff that I did, from hiking Acatenango in Guatemala to the beaches in Belize. I'll also show you a couple of possible 2-week itineraries if you've only got a much shorter time, one that's more culture and one that's more beach, as well as things that you could do on a second trip and that I'd wish I'd done on my first. So let's crack on with it. So I did Central America north to south, and that means I flew into Cancun in Mexico. However, I'd heard a lot of negative things about the city, that it was more of a party city and they didn't have much culture, so I headed immediately south to the town of Playa del Carmen for my first day there. Playa del Carmen is not culture Mexico, however it's a good kind of taster of what's to come further down the Yucatan, and I'd recommend you do start there. It's got great food, great nightlife, and you can explore the towns nearby. So on day 2, I did a motorbike moped trip to Cozumel, which is just a ferry away from Playa del Carmen, and day 3 I headed to the Chichen Itza, which is actually a wonder of the world.
How much is this one?
Real price is $50.
Welcome to Mexico, just doing some tequila tasting in a random gift shop near the Chichen Itza. And that's before I did a beach day to finish off my time in Playa del Carmen. We then headed to Tulum in Mexico, which is only about an hour and a half down the coast. We spent a day exploring the Grand Samote.
Swimming with turtles is something I've just always wanted to do, and to do it here, just amazing.
As well as Tulum ruins and Tulum beach, which is very famous with influences, white sand and blue water. Really, really cool place to visit.
What he doesn't realise, it's not his dance moves that she's interested in. It's the size of his wallet.
My first destination in Belize was Caye Caulker, which just is a small ferry over from the capital of Belize City. We saw Belize Barrier Reef and we went on a cruise there for the day, which is one of the best days of the trip. It was absolutely incredible and saw sharks, turtles and basically every coral. It's the second largest barrier reef in the world, but it's the biggest alive barrier reef and is actually larger than the Great Barrier Reef itself.
Barrier Reef, it's 185 miles long from north to south.
We then did some kayaking and explored the town. I think we stayed there about 3 nights. Really cool place. Before heading to San Ignacio, which is inland in Belize. That's famous for caving. It has these huge caves. However, it was quite expensive to go in, so we didn't in the end, and instead went to this iguana farm, which was actually really funny. And these green iguanas were jumping all over you. And it made some very funny photos.
Is it on the GoPro?
So one of the main things people visit Guatemala for is Tikal National Park, which was the home of the Maya people thousands of years ago.
On behalf of our ancestors, the Maya, we would like to welcome you to Tikal.
And so we did a tour of the Tikal National Park and actually camped next to the car park, which was quite a funny experience. That's before we headed to Rio Dulce, which is just about an hour drive from there, and also did a day trip to the town of Livingston. This is all very, very fast paced, as you can see. However, we did see a lot of Guatemala and Central America in this first month of our trip. After a couple of days in Rio Dulce, we then headed to Atitlan via Antigua. So I think we spent a night in Antigua on the way. It was quite a long journey. And headed to Atitlan and a few towns on the lake, for example San Pedro La Laguna, San Marcos La Laguna, and also Chichicastenango Market, which is right next to the lake, and it's absolute chaos, but a great way to actually see what Guatemala is really like for local people.
It's definitely overwhelming. I don't think I've really experienced chaos like this before. It's like all your senses are just overwhelmed.
And then we headed back to Antigua, where we rested for a couple of days before doing the famous Acatenango hike, and I 100% advise you leave a few days in your itinerary to do this. It was absolutely incredible. You climb up this volcano, camp at the top, and then summit it for sunrise, and you have an absolutely stunning view. One of my favourite moments of backpacking generally, not just off this trip.
Just erupted. Look how high it goes as well. insane.
Now, I did go in 2022 and COVID was still lingering around Central America at that time. So I flew over a few of the countries and flew into San Jose in Costa Rica, where I spent 3 nights, which was pretty poor decision on my part. There isn't a lot really to do there. We did this hacienda hike, which was like Instagram in real life. There were so many Instagram opportunities, and that was probably the best thing we did there. The other days we just spent chilling and prepping for some turtle conservation. Now, if you're going to guess where I'm going to cut out a lot of this time on this trip, it's going to be on this turtle conservation project. I spent a week there, and it was really good fun, but it was very, very tiring. And if you've only got a short amount of time to be traveling Central America, I wouldn't really advise doing it. I then left the turtle conservation project and headed to Monteverde, where you can do zip lining and also visit the cloud forest. I also really recommend you do the night safari, where you see a whole load of night animals. It's up in the jungle, up in the cloud forest, and you see so many animals. It really lives up to the hype.
Don't move your legs, por favor.
And then headed to Manuel Antonio, the national park there, where monkeys and sloths are absolutely everywhere, as well as we had a couple of beach days right by the coast.
It's actually insane how I'm just walking along the road to dinner and there's a sloth crossing the road.
Before heading to Avita, which is more of a chill Manuel Antonio, very green and kind of zen, we stayed in this eco lodge, went to a couple of waterfalls and also had a chill day there. We also went to Corcovado Park, which I just realised isn't on this itinerary, but Corcovado is the most diverse place on planet Earth according to the National Geographic, and you can get there from Avita as part of a day trip. To finish off, I had to head all the way back to San Jose to get a bus, to then get another bus exactly the direction I'd just come from to Panama City. Again, guess where I'm going to cut out in the next itinerary, and then headed to Panama City, which probably wasn't worth it. And if you are going to do my route, I'd suggest you just finish in San Jose. Speaking of which, let's get on to my route in 4 weeks. So if you've only got 4 weeks to do the exact route that I did, this is what I'd recommend you do. You can easily do my route in 4 weeks. We can just cut out a little bit of stuff. So again, flying to Playa del Carmen, spend a few nights there, and then head to Tulum and Bacalar. I'm going to recommend you do visit Bacalar, the lagoon there. We only called in for about an hour, but there were some really good hostels by the lagoon. And it's a really up-and-coming place that's much quieter than Tulum and Playa del Carmen. Then head over to Caye Caulker, skip San Ignacio in the mainland Belize, and head straight to Tikal, where you can spend a night, and then to Semuc Champi, which again I haven't mentioned yet. It is this huge cliff, and you look down and there's loads of lakes at the bottom. I haven't been myself, but I've heard a lot of positive things about it, and there is also a really cool hostel with like a swim-up bar on top of the cliff. Then go to Antigua, and you can do the Acatenango hike now, or go and visit Atitlan, spend a few days in Atitlan, and then come back to Antigua and do the Acatenango hike there. You've got to do the hike. It's tiring, it's a really long day, but when you get to the top, it is 100% worth it. And then finish by the beach in El Paredon, which I haven't visited, but I always like to finish my trips with a beach, just to chill for a few days, relax, before flying out of Antigua. A couple of 2-week itineraries for you. We'll start with the more beachy one, flying to Playa del Carmen, see Tulum, and then also stay a night in Bacalar if you have time. If you don't have time, that's fine. Go to Caye Caulker instead. I think you should prioritise Tulum, Playa del Carmen and Caye Caulker over Bacalar. But if you do have a few extra days, try and slot Bacalar in there. A few days in Caye Caulker, and then head inland to Tikal. That might be quite a long journey, but it's definitely worth seeing Tikal. And then head to Antigua, where you can do the Acatenango hike. So 2 weeks, you do see quite a lot of 3 different countries there, but it gives you a good mix of beach and culture. Whereas another 2-week alternative, if you want to focus more on culture, fly in and out of Antigua in Guatemala, go and see Lake Atitlan, go round to Tikal, and then see Semuc Champi, and then fly out of Atitlan If you've got an extra couple of days, maybe head down to El Paradon by the Pacific coast if you just want a beach as well. But that would be a great 2-week itinerary. Now, if I was going to go back to Central America, where would I want to go? This is a first timer's guide, so if I was going to go back for a second time, I'd go and visit Nicaragua. I've heard great things about on Tepe Island. You can go and do volcano boarding, where you go down a volcano on a sledge, and that's in Leon in Nicaragua. And also San Juan del Sur, which is a surfer town, seems really chill. And Nicaragua is also very, very cheap, much cheaper than Costa Rica. So most importantly, how much does all this cost? Well, that will be the next video, so please go and subscribe, like this video if you find it helpful, and next week I'll give you a full budget breakdown of how much it costs to backpack Central America.